Welcome into the official. We are continuing our position by position overview of the 2023 class. So we're getting down into early signing day. Will be coming up in less than about 5 to 6 weeks. We've been preparing ourselves for the 2023 class. They're all, certainly the high ranking guys are about to sign here in the end of December. And so gearing up for that, we are looking at these class top 10 by position and then some deep shots, similar to how we did the quarterbacks last week. So if you missed the quarterbacks last week on the official, go back to YouTube, check out that episode. You'll get our evaluation of the top 10, what to expect, and then also some deep shots from each of us here at the official. And this week is running backs. This is the official. All right, guys, we got a full house here. David and Matt, glad you're joining me. We had a good time last week talking about quarterbacks. You guys ready to talk about that crown jewel of any recruiting class, especially in the fantasy side, which is that 3-down workhorse running back?
Yes, of course. Always love talking running backs.
Oh, yeah. Even though you're a big wide receiver guy, I think you also like big running backs as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're going to talk running backs. I think you could even argue that running a true 3-down workhorse running back is actually the most rare thing in fantasy football, the way that a lot of offenses are going both on the college side and the NFL side. So this is really important to get these right in your freshman drafts. Before we get started, go check out campustocanta.com, our parent website. And, for all other things associated with college football, whether it is more recruiting coverage that you want, our tools for recruiting, our comparison tool, which allows you to say, hey, what is this recruit going to be like on an athletic measurement comparison? Of course, we've got rankings more extensive than we will even talk about here on the official. We've got college fantasy coverage. We've got betting coverage. We've got just really anything you could want to enjoy your Saturdays more, to enjoy college football more, and all for an entry price of $2.99 a month. And it goes up from there if you want additional features and tools. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a lot of running backs tonight. Might as well just get going with it. The top 10 for us starts with Cedric, Baxter, and these are the C2C top 10. And Cedric Baxter is number 1. I think there's a good argument here, although I always have to hedge it with the fact that I personally have a little bit of a lower rating on him. I'm thinking of shifting that and seeing how I can get those grades up, because I really do believe he's one of the highest upside guys. Matt, big wide receiver, big running back, whatever. Cedric Baxter's a big running back. And why do you like him? I know you've said that you like him quite a bit and would have even put him at RB2 in last year's class, behind everyone's number 1, Singleton.
Yeah, his strengths are pretty clear in that, he's the big and the fast in this class, which there aren't too many in this class, especially, in terms of size. But on top of that, he's also a really refined runner. He's really good around the line, going around linebackers, finding the right hole, getting to the second level. And then once he gets to the second level, he takes off and he goes. He's not as shifty laterally as some, other guys in this class. I think he's fine in that area. But the big knock at the moment, I would say, is hands. We'd like to see him, do that catch a little bit more. But that was a concern with Nicholas Singleton too. So it's not the end of the world for such a powerful runner like him.
Right. David, I'll ask you to play devil's advocate a little bit. I think you have Baxter very high, maybe RB1 as well on your personal rankings. But what should we be concerned about with Baxter? Is there anything that, Matt said hands, is there anything else that would make you shy away at all? Or is he very clearly the RB1?
I don't know. Maybe it's a little aggressive to say clearly. I don't think the services have him as a consensus number 1, but Matt pointed out his weaknesses. His lateral movement isn't like off the charts or anything. I think it's fine. And then from all the reports I've seen is that he catches the ball well in camps, but they don't use him as a pass catcher in the offensive at his high school. That happens a lot too. It's like you got to dig for more evidence that he can do it. So usually I head to YouTube and I look to see how he does in camp settings. I actually haven't found any videos of him in camps, but the On3 write-up says he's a really good pass catcher. So actually, apparently he's a converted wide receiver. I think like when he was a freshman or a sophomore, he was actually a receiver. So I think he's fine in that regard. But he's big and fast and well-rounded enough, I think, to be number one.
Yeah, my eval, I watched him again today because I just, by the numbers, I don't try to set out and say, hey, I'm going to put this guy at a certain spot. I just grade it like I see it, and whatever the final number is where they land. And he just didn't come out that high. I did ding him for no real receiving work evidence that I could see. I did ding him for what you guys are saying, lateral agility. I think that is an area I grade. I'm a stickler. I want to see agility. I want to see that side to side a little bit more. But at the end of the day, he is 215, 220 pounds. He hits 22 miles an hour. Is that right? Or at least I know 21.
I believe 21.5 is the fastest we've
So 21.5 at 215, 220 is like great. I mean, that's fantastic. So he's huge and he's fast. He's probably going to a good offense at Texas, although that is a little bit in question right now. I think he's been flirting with Florida State, which from a fantasy perspective, I would be less excited about. But, I think the reality is he's got the size, speed, build, and running back acumen to be a day 2 draft pick. Like we can say that right now, even going to a high major Power 5 school. So there's a lot to like about Cedric Baxter, and I really don't have a problem with him being number one, even though my personal bias is I like the agility, I like the receiving in my running backs. But, like you said, similar to Singleton, we didn't know he could catch. It didn't really matter. And that's kind of where I'm coming around on Baxter too, myself, is like, even though my grade may not have him as high, I may just have to bump him up because I want him on my fantasy team. Moving down to Justice Haynes, I'll take the lead here because I have been a Justice Haynes stan. I'm glad that the other people at C2C seem to like him as well. He is the running back 2 for us, which is probably in line with what the services have him. He's anywhere between 1, or probably, I don't think he's 1 anywhere, but he's anywhere between 2 and 4 or 5, depending on your service. Baxter is 1 on 3, he's 2 on 24/7, and I think rivals might have him a little lower. So we're not that out of sync at the top here. What I really like about Haynes, and it's been backed up by other people in the industry, he's a good route runner. He's got soft hands. I think he's a complete running back. He's big enough at over 200 pounds, headed to Alabama. There's just a lot to like. And I know, I'll let you say the knock a little bit, but I really like a well-rounded running back who's going to a high major school. And my evaluation just may miss some things that he's actually even better than I think. But at the very worst, I think he's good in all phases, like a Najee Harris. Najee Harris doesn't have that thing that you can hang your hat on that says he's elite in any one area, but he was great at Alabama. He was an extremely good fantasy pick out of Alabama, and then he was a first-round draft pick in the NFL. So that could be the track that Haynes winds up on, maybe day 2, but that's pretty much fine for running backs. We'll just go back to David here. You like Haynes. I know you're a little bit with me. I know Matt might be a little lower, so let him finish.
Actually, can I butt in here? David has the lowest grade on Haynes right now.
Oh, David!
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, the tides have turned there.
Oh, my God.
I think my grades are low.
You liked him, David. Tell me what your eval is then.
No, I like him. I think he's pretty good at everything. I think he came on our radar. When we watched those camp videos for the last class, he was one of the underclassmen that showed up.
Yep.
And the guy was cooking everyone in one-on-one stuff, one-on-one drills, and like he's a good pass catcher. I don't know, he's just like I just wish he had just a little bit more juice and was just a little bit bigger. But I mean, I don't dislike him. I think I have him top 5 or top 6, somewhere around there. So I definitely like him. I don't really have anything to say against him other than that, Alabama's just got a bunch of guys in that room. It's like how much is he going to produce on the college side? I don't know.
Matt, here's your time to shine.
Yeah, it's not even that I dislike. I believe he's my RB6 or my RB7 right now. So it's not even that I hate him that much as a player. It's just he's going to such a crowded room and a room that doesn't really split carries that often. So and especially when Jamari Miller has a very similar skill set, except I would say an even more well-rounded one, and he has the size and he has more experience going in. So we're hedging on whether Haynes is going to be college relevant at all here, because if Jamarian takes that job, Haynes isn't doing anything really until year 3.
Sobering news. That's true. And actually, I think that's a good point about Jamarian Miller, who is another guy I really liked in last class. They may have overlapping comparable skill sets. Actually, I think that's a good point. And Miller, who I actually really like, I definitely think when you go to Alabama or you go to Georgia and you're looking at these guys, you do have to say I'm picking this player on NFL potential on my in my campus Canton team. Because you're going to get 1, maybe 2, but probably 1.5 years of usable, production before, because the freshman year is probably going to be out the window and just sit on your bench. So you are picking these guys for like more of a Devy angle, I think, when they go to your Alabamas or your Georgias. Mm-hmm. One guy who is definitely going to be CFF relevant as soon as 2023 is Rueben Owens, going to Louisville, who, if he sticks with that commitment, he could start day one, like no questions asked. This guy's a 5-star. He's out of Texas. He does show a diverse skill set. What do you guys think about Owens? I know that he's most people's, I think he's many services #1. He falls here to 3 for us. But should he be #1? Should he be over Baxter, do you think? If you take into account that college production.
I would say no, but he is my RB2, because I do value that production over like a Haynes, for example, who I think there's a similar talent at least, but Owens is at least, you can see the production in line a lot easier with him. And, he's been a hyper producer in high school. He's the model's RB1 in this class by a mile, just on the production alone. So I feel like he's just a really safe pick on that college upside, and I think he has good NFL upside on top of it too. He's tested really, really well in some verified events.
Yeah, let's just keep it going here. I know, David, you've seen Roderick Robinson in person, haven't you? At one of the Elite 11s, wasn't he there?
Yeah, he was there. He was out there catching passes.
That's the thing with him, right? He's 230 pounds, but can catch passes, run some routes. That's a rare combination, which is why he's our 4, even though he's a little bit lower for most industry. I mean, I think he's outside the top 10 on 24/7, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's pretty low for most of the services. They probably don't have verified workout numbers on him, or I'm not exactly sure, but he is verified 238 pounds at this point. Like, the guy is an absolute monster.
He's a tank.
Yeah. Recently, shout out to Fusu on Twitter at Devi Yusuf. He got him at 21.9 miles per hour on a run this year on his senior tape. So we're talking about a 238-pound man that hit 21.9 miles. Matt, did you test this run?
I actually didn't get around to buy. You retesting got the 21.7.
Yeah, I used our old method, got pretty much the same 21.7. Yeah, right around that area. So that's a lot of joules. I mean, I don't know. So it's like, this guy is going to be running through people. He's got good agility too, and like I said, he can catch. So it's like, I moved him up to my tier 1 actually after learning that. I mean, with new information, I'm not afraid to make changes. So he's my running back 2 right now.
Whoa. Okay. I don't think you can argue some of those those puzzle pieces coming together, size, speed, and that third dimension we're always looking for, which is ability to play in the pass game. Very, very interesting player. And, for fantasy purposes, I think he's right there in this kind of top tier of running backs. I don't think that's unreasonable. And then we got Cam Seldon, who we can talk a little bit about, but I think we can keep it pretty quick. He is an athlete. He's played receiver and quarterback wildcat and also running back for his high school team. I see tons of burst. He's, again, 220. He's like not quite as big as Robinson, but one of these huge guys. For him, what I really love is the burst for Seldon. That first few steps at his size is pretty remarkable. And what I think I texted you guys in the Slack at one point and was like, there's some plays where Seldon just kind of looks like Tecmo Bowl out there, just kind of running around a bunch of guys who just simply can't put a hand on him, and he's big and fast and he's bigger than everyone. But we don't really know some of those like true RB skills. We assume that he can catch because he also played some receiver, lining out wide, things like that. Matt, is there a word of caution for Seldon other than he's a bit of an unknown, but I think the upside is very, very high for him?
Yeah, I would say that sums up really well. I mean, he's kind of a definition of a boom bust player there. We don't know what position he's going to play. If he plays coming from such a small level of competition where, statistically from what we have seen and what we've seen from game tape, he hasn't been like a totally dominant player there. Now that might partially have to do with the coach just saving him because he knows, he's better off not getting injured for college or whatever. But, you still like to see a player of that caliber dominating at that level.
Yes, we always want to see that domination for sure. Let's flip the page here to the rest of our top 10. And a guy I really like, although his senior year is, maybe a little more concerning, but he's still inside of our top 10. Number 6, Marion Peterson. He's headed to an elite offense at USC. And the story in a nutshell here is, he's playing potentially at 190 or so, under 200 as a junior. I love his junior film. Like, he's one of my favorites. I mean, I think by grading his junior film alone, it was like my top 2 or 3 running back in the class. He's put on weight, which we thought at the first mention was really good, like 210, 215. But I watched his senior film, and it's what you guys said. What did you see on his senior film? I think it was one of you guys that pointed out a couple of issues.
Yeah, I noticed he was definitely looking a bit clunkier, definitely laterally looking a lot worse. Acceleration-wise, just everything. You could tell the weight gain just didn't, go as he might have expected. At least that's how it seemed to us. We did retime him. David got him at just over 21 miles per hour, I believe, which before we were getting him at, right around 22. So a bit of a drop there, but still good speed, a long speed at least. But it looks like he's taking a little while to get there.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things, he was so shifty and elusive in his junior tape. And I agree. I mean, I took a look at the senior stuff and it was noticeable. I mean, I had that little bug in my ear, like, hey, be on the lookout. Is he quite as explosive? And I agree. He was a little bit more running in sand kind of thing. So I was a little disappointed. But like you said, if you still got him over, I mean, for the listeners here, anything over 21, really at any size is pretty good. But if you're doing over 21 miles an hour and you're over 200, 210, that's really great. Like, for long speed. Obviously there's some that are even better, but really that's kind of that borderline that you're looking for. At number 7, Alabama comes in with their second running back in the top 10 for us and also in the industry top 10 with Richard Young. This guy's out of Florida. David, do you have any thoughts on Richard Young?
Yeah, I mean, Richard Young, he's another reason why I'm tempering my expectations on Haynes as well, because it's like Richard Young he's got the sizes around 200 pounds. He's got the build. He's got like a thick lower half. He made our freak list. He can hit over 21 miles per hour. I believe he's recruiting analytics top athlete at the position. Which incorporates, change of direction and acceleration and stuff like that. I like his running style in general. Like he runs angry. He's going to break a lot of tackles. And he actually has pretty good agility, and he can string together moves as well. The big knock on him is we really don't have much evidence of pass catching. So, so he's not a complete running back at this stage.
Yeah, that's fair. I think he's a great runner. But you're right. I mean, I see like Haynes is maybe that third down back plus. Young maybe is that first 2 downs for when you're running the ball. Then we have a athlete. I think he's listed as an athlete, right? Fagan going to Illinois, but this guy's just absolutely massive. I mean, you watch him on his tape, and I don't think there's anyone on the field, including linemen, who are as big as he is. It's absolutely kind of hilarious. But Matt, you brought him to my attention first, and now he winds up as our running back 8. So tell me a little bit about Fagan, and then we'll kind of wrap up here with the last 2 guys.
Yeah, Caden Fagan is, like you're saying, a massive guy, 6'2", 220 to, some places listed at 235. Very athletic guy, though, and it's very clear on the tape. He's playing against pretty low-level competition, but he is absolutely dominating them. Well over 10 yards per carry last time I checked. Another issue with we don't have much evidence of him as a receiver, which is a bit concerning. But going to Illinois, you saw what they did with Chase Brown this year. They fed him, and I think they're really, really excited about Fagan coming around. He should be the next lead back there by my estimation, and that should lead to him being very, very CFF relevant.
Yeah, it's definitely a CFF play, if nothing else. I mean, you're talking about a guy who could handle 30 plus carries a game the way that Brown is. So then we have Dontavius Braswell. He is going to South Carolina. And in the interest of time, we've talked about him on other shows as well. We really do like him. He's my assessment is he's a little bit wild in terms of every play could be a kind of reverse field marathon to go 20 yards downfield vertically, but he really does show a lot of speed, a lot of juice, and he's good size. And then we have Augustine. I guess I have written here Augustine, but it's Augustave or Gustav. And so that's my bad, everyone. But he's going to Arkansas, and we do have a clip here of him. And, Matt, I think we all kind of like him, but you did bring him to our attention. So why don't you take us through this clip real quick?
I'd love to take credit, but he's actually Austin's guy.
Okay.
He's another guy, another long running back, 6'2", 190, incredibly fast. We got him at 21.7 miles per hour, and you can see it right on his tape. He flies down the field. He's super physical. Going to Arkansas, he could be next in line after, Raheem Sanders is gone. So he's definitely a really exciting player with a huge ceiling. And I believe he recently jumped up to 24/7's RB4 in the class. So that's something pretty notable.
Yeah, absolutely. Really impressive stuff there from him. And you can see on that clip, I mean, there was one where he just totally trucked a guy. He's obviously very fast. And I do like him. And also, I think Arkansas is becoming a team where, it's worth keeping track of who they're offering and who they're signing, because they've definitely done a nice job kind of going with some of these athletic just freaks that maybe a little positionless. I mean, I don't think Augusta falls into that, but just really athletic, very fast guys, and they're producing over there at Arkansas, so that's pretty interesting. So that kind of rounds out our top 10, and what we like to do is here at the official, of course, is also walk you through some sleepers, because this is how you win leagues. I mean, you're picking up some of these guys at the very end of freshman drafts, some 3 stars, having kind of a waiver wire speed dial. So at the first mention of a guy getting some touches or camp work, you want to pick them up before they actually do something. So you're already rostering these guys. A perfect example this last year was Quinshon Judkins, who's a 3-star. And we were saying this guy is really, really good. And he's basically made Zach Evans irrelevant, which is incredible, and has become a fantasy producer week in and week out for Ole Miss. So, don't forget about the 3 stars. And so what I want to do is start with David here, because one of his sleepers is a 4-star guy, but definitely ranked a little bit lower. And you don't hear him routinely discussed in the elite guys. But Quentin Joyner here, 5'11", 203, hits 21 miles an hour, going to USC, so you love that. So we got kind of two USC guys we're going to highlight here. Tell me a little bit about Quentin Joyner, and I've got a clip for us to watch as well, David.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd designate him as like a sleeper, but I wanted to talk about him because he's running back 17 on the website. I have him as running back 5 right now. He's just a guy that grew on me the more and more I watched him. Mostly because I definitely think he's over 200 pounds by now. I know he was listed at 190 at one point, but he kind of reminds me of like Quinshon. Like the more I watch his tape, the more I like him. He's not afraid to lower the shoulder. He's going to break a lot of tackles. He's, like you said, he hits 21.4 miles per hour. If a guy's 200 pounds and he's hitting over 21 miles an hour, I'm just going to like him, like generally speaking. So, but I think he's got quick feet. He's good between the tackles. He seems like a fine pass catcher from what I've seen. His high school production checks boxes for me. So I just think, like his tape didn't pop for me right away, but the more I watched him, the more I'm like, oh, this guy's kind of a grinder. I kind of like his style.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he shows some hands, if I remember correctly. So you've got, he can do it between the tackles. He's big enough. He's got some hands in an elite offense that's going to put up points. Even if he's not super featured, at the worst case, if he's a committee back in there, you can see you can still use those guys on your team. They're not, useless. And so as we've seen with even Travis Dye, who I wouldn't consider like a true workhorse, but he's been great this year because they just have so many touchdowns to go around in that offense, and they're going to continue to do that. Matt, I'm glad you picked this guy because if you didn't, I was going to feel like I needed to. Ever since you kind of brought him up, DJ Oliver has been a guy I want Florida to offer him. I know he's been to a game. I think he could be useful in our backfield. Currently committed to USF. Tell us about the 6 foot, 237-pound monster running back from Port St. Joe.
Yeah, it's been a while since we talked some Oliver, so I figured it's about time to bring him back up. He's obviously a massive running back. We've clocked him at 20.5 miles per hour, which is fantastic at that size. But what's really notable about him is he has a really well-rounded skill set. He's a fantastic receiver, as you can see up there, 20% receiving market share. And he showed off just great hands, making jumping catches, getting opening camps. So that's a proven part of his game. That's something pretty rare at a player his size. He's super powerful. He has a lot of really good verified lifting times. He's actually the nephew of LeGarrette Blount. A little fun fact in there. So he has that NFL line to go along with it. And yeah, I just think he's a really solid player. At the minimum, I think he's set up to be a really good CFF player. Maybe he can end up as a day 3 player draft pick. That'd be fantastic for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll chime in here. You can see here on these clips, like he does have a burst. I mean, you can tell how big he is watching that, but also you can see him like he beats guys to holes. He beats guys to angles, even at 237, which is pretty impressive. And I really like DJ Oliver. And like we pointed out, I mean, that 20% market share as a junior, it was super impressive. Even if it's screens, like if you're 237 and contributing at all in the passing game, like that's really nice as a prospect. I'm going to bring up Kewan Brown. He's a guy actually not too far away from me down in South Atlanta High School. 5'9", 205, so pretty good stout frame there. And he's been a hyper productive guy in the last 2 years. The yards and everything is compiling up as well, but 73 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons I thought was pretty impressive. I think he's on his way to back-to-back 30 touchdown, or no, he had like 38 last year, and he's approaching 30 or something. I don't know, something like that. He's got a ton of touchdowns, so he gets in the end zone. And when you watch the tape on him, he is nice and stout, so he's got a good frame, and he's just bursty. Here he is, and he really hits some holes. He's got a few cuts, but he seems to have good vision. He navigates in traffic pretty well, and he does pull away, which you like to see. Even that subtle move there to kind of get that safety to not be able to continue his angle and keep distance from the guy chasing him as well. But I just like his movement skills. I think he's shifty in traffic, and then he does have home run power as well. Kind of a unique player. Headed to Purdue. So we've seen what Devin Mockabee has done as a true freshman for Purdue this year. And all of a sudden, he's kind of burst onto the CFF scene as a very usable player in that offense. And similar to some of these other good offenses we talked about, there's just scoring opportunities because they throw a lot, they get to the end zone, they get in the red zone, and there's a lot of touchdowns to be had, even in the Big Ten. So I like this guy if he can go carve out a nice role at Purdue. 3-star guy, again, I mean, he's a guy I have my eye on, but like in freshman drafts, he's going to be whatever, last round, maybe last pick. Just keep an eye on Kevon Brown. And if we hear in spring camp, I don't know if he's an early enroll or not, but if we hear that he's like making noise early, definitely jump on getting some Kevon Brown on your rosters. Next up, let's go back to David for Tybo Rogers here. 5'11", 180, so not imposing physical frame, but really interesting to pull out. He's going to be one of the youngest players in this entire class on signing day. Will only be basically 17 years old.
Yeah, I think his last verification was like over a year ago at 180. So I'm hoping he's bigger by now. And his young age, I'm hoping that he has more growth potential. So usually I don't love betting on these smaller running backs, but I think he's probably the best receiving back that I've watched so far. So hits 21 miles per hour. I think he's really fluid. He's got a sick stiff arm. You saw one there. You're about to see another one at the end of this run. Like, he's just good at football. I like to say, like, he just punked that kid. So I watched him in some of his camp stuff. Like, he's really good at running around. Like, he's a really crisp route runner as well. You can see the fluidity there. But the size is the only knock for me, really. And I like the landing spot at Washington. The running back room is relatively thin, and it's just a good offense you probably want a piece of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on that last clip, the last play right there, you could see he was pulling away from that safety, which is one thing I look for. It's one thing to have a long run, but when we're evaluating film, what I like to, our safety is like closing the gap. When by the time they get to the end zone, has someone made up ground on them, or are they still pulling away? And it's fairly rare to continue to pull away, but I feel like I saw that there where like he's still lengthening that gap between him, the closest defender, even crossing the end zone. So I think he's got legit speed there. That's a good call. I really hadn't even, that name was new to me when you brought him up, but I think that's a really good call. And again, these guys who are lower rated with some skills that you can be excited about in good offenses. Now that Washington has an elite offense, I would say definitely for fantasy, you keep your eyes on these guys. Oh gosh, yeah. So Matt, you're going super deep. A guy with no stars to his name, but some good offers. Tell us about I think it's Jamarius Haynes.
Yeah, Jamarius, I believe is pronounced. He recently got out of the blue his first offer ever from Clemson after the Syracuse game. He just went there on a visit, and they surprise offer him. He had no Division I offers or anything yet. He's a player out of Alabama. He also has offers from Washington State and Western Kentucky now, and he's visited Georgia, before the season started. This season, though, he put up a 460-yard game, which is incredible. He's averaging over 11 yards per carry this season, over 1,000 yards on the season, 10.9 100 meter, and reported 4.45 40 time, and a reported 38 vert. So we're talking really athletic guy here. CJ Spiller has been out to see him play a few times. You just saw him last week. He had a 200-yard rushing performance in a playoff game, which was pretty great. And something notable here is that Clemson doesn't really have an heir apparent at running back once Will Shipley leaves. Phil Maffa will probably take the job for 1 year, assuming he stays. But then after that, in the 2022 class, they only got one running back, Keith Adams, who was, another pretty lowly rated guy.
Out of Utah. I think he had like a legacy connection or something. I think it was almost like a gift offer.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about him. So they didn't get anybody in 2022 really. And then they didn't get anybody in this class yet. They have Haynes offered. They have Jamari Wilcox. Yeah, Jamari Wilcox offered, who is another really good sleeper, and Christopher Johnson offered, who is
Out of South Florida, I think Miami is his probable destination.
Yeah,
And I kind of
fast
like him, but
guy,
he's small. He's very
yeah.
small. He's very fast and electric, but he's small.
So it's likely whoever they get in this class is a good chance of being their next guy running back. So
yeah, I mean, that's a
interesting
great
spot.
call. Like, that's just, he is, and you would imagine with the Clemson offer and some of these stats and stuff, I mean, at some point these services will wake up and slap 3 stars on his name. But right now, he does have a profile on 24/7 and on 3, but 0 stars. My last guy here is going to be Jordan Louis out of the Atlanta area. So I do look at Georgia, and these guys happen to come out, but I just think Georgia's a fertile recruiting state. I didn't mean to pick guys from Atlanta, but he's 6 foot, and the big thing here to me, he's 205 on 3. He's 210 on 24/7. So I think he's definitely over 200 pounds. And 6 feet, I think you can put some more weight on. So he's a big guy. He's going to have that workhorse size, and he's got a skill set because this year he's got 36,584 in the receiving game. He has, plenty of rushing yards, over 1,500 or whatever. He shows legitimate receiving skills, downfield, catching the ball, which I really like. I mean, like we've kind of talked about, when you've got size, some modicum of speed, but then you're showing legit receiving work, it's just a good type of player to place a bet on. And here he is here. I'm not sure we'll get to see in these first few plays legitimate receiving work. And frankly, as a runner, I'm not blown away. I mean, I wouldn't say that his running skills are incredible. He's not the shiftiest guy. I think he has decent top end speed, but it's more of a bet on size and the ability to play in all 3 phases of the game. He was committed to West Virginia, recently decommitted, and now getting some strong buzz to UNC, which of course as a fantasy player would be fantastic. That offense is incredible. They've produced high-end running backs in recent history. And no one's really we thought the 2 freshmen this year would really take the bull by the horns, but they haven't. So I think there's some ability there for that. That offense is begging for a workhorse running back. He's got the size, speed, and like I said, we didn't get receiving on there, but if you continue to watch that tape on Huddle, you'll see the receiving work, downfield stuff, wheel routes, over the shoulder grabs, things like that. So I really do like Jordan Louis, and he's kind of an afterthought on most lists and things like that, the 3-star guy. So there's plenty more running backs. I would say, let's just wrap this up as a whole. What's your take on the class in general, Matt and David?
I think it's a relatively average class. At first we were saying it's not good, but I think it's turned out to be a little more average than we expected. Obviously, to me at least, there's only just the one super high-end player in Baxter, and then, not as many tier 2 guys as you'd like. But I feel like the tier 3 is a very deep group, and a lot of exciting names that we've kind of unearthed as the season has gone along.
Yeah, David.
Yeah,
similar feelings.
Yeah, pretty much. I probably early on. This is my first year really getting into junior tape and then senior tape, so I probably overreacted a little bit to junior tape. I think the class has definitely grown on me as well. I think it's pretty average. There's some guys that have risen up and some guys we've uncovered. So the class seems fine in general. Maybe not a ton of superstars, but you usually don't get a ton in one class anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the point. That's a good point. Is we always kind of want this class is loaded. 10 deep who can be stars. That's very rare. I think if you have 1 or 2 crown jewels in a class, that's pretty good. And I do think the issue here is that Baxter may not even we said. I mean, I think for the last 3 classes, Baxter would not be the running back 1. He wouldn't have been ahead of Singleton. He wouldn't have been ahead of Travion Henderson. He wouldn't have been ahead of Bijan Robinson. So, we're looking at the number 1 in this class would not have been the best running back in the last 3 classes. So that tells you a little bit. But there will be guys. I mean, like you said, it's grown on us. 3-stars have kind of come out of the woodwork, and we're like, I think this guy should be a 4-star. I think this guy is really good. And so I think that's going to happen. 3-stars are going to show up to campus and, be relevant, even though they're lowly ranked, just like Quinshon Judkins, just like Damian Martinez, who is now getting 20 to 25 touches a game at a Power 5 school as a true freshman. And we saw it. We liked him, but he was buried. And it's going to happen again. So who will pop? That's the trick. Who are we? Are hopefully the guys we're highlighting are the guys who are going to make that jump and kind of come out of nowhere to be very relevant for fantasy and, put their stamp on NFL potential. But I think there is a bit of a issue with there's no guy you can really sit here and be like, he is an absolute monster. And I feel like the last few classes, there's been at least one that we could say this guy, day one stud. We'll see if Baxter can do it. We'll see. Because Bijan won't be in Texas. Maybe if he stays with that commitment, he produces as a true freshman. All right. So then next week we'll do wide receivers. So stick with us for that. We'll do the same thing, top 10, and then some sleepers for you. And also, of course, our coverage won't end. We're going to keep talking about stuff. Follow us all on Twitter. And if you at least just follow us at campus2canton.com, the site name. You'll also get all of us retweeting and commenting, and you'll catch us there. I'm at Alfred JF. I don't do this every week, but, shameless plug here. He's at Big Wide Receiver Guy, and David is at Solving Football. If you're catching us for the first time here on YouTube, you can follow us on Twitter and get some more information. You can go to campus2canton.com, see all of our recruiting coverage. And so thank you for watching. Go ahead and click that like and subscribe button. You won't miss our official, which debuts on Thursdays every single week. With that being said, that's the running backs for 2023. This has been the official.